when you get a hot drink in
Right.
one of those, it sheds trillions of pieces of microplastic
Really? To one cup. And you're saying it's leaching trillions of
into your
microplastics.
drink. Yeah.
Are we winning it all? Is the question.
It would be like trying to vacuum the United States.
You're drinking it, you're eating it. So it's like, oh my God, people have, well, of course people are sick. You're consuming something that is unconsumable. Yeah.
Eating little bits of petrochemicals. Yeah.
Right.
It can't be good for us.
This is the Douglas Robbins Show.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. So glad you are here. So plastic is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. We go to the store, we get plastic. Almost everything is in plastic. We go get takeout food, we use it for 5 minutes, we throw it into the recycling bin. It becomes this out of sight, out of mind thing. But the problem with that is a lot of it doesn't get recycled. A lot of it goes overseas and goes into waterways. And I'm sure you've all seen at the beach and wherever else, plastics are everywhere. The ocean doesn't want the plastic, keeps spitting it back up onto the beach. And this is a real issue because it's so out of sight, out of mind. We just throw things away and we think it's all taken care of. And obviously the earth is being bombarded with plastics and with garbage. I was looking into it, and that so often garbage is incinerated. So every ton of garbage that's incinerated creates a ton of CO2 in the atmosphere. And I think we could just do better. And I'm so excited to have this lady on the show today. She is a well-known author of the book called The Zero Waste Chef, and she deals with sustainable kitchens and for the sustainable planet, and basically how to reduce use of plastic. So Anne Marie Bonneau, welcome to the program.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Douglas.
So glad to have you. This is such a subject near and dear to my heart. When I was young, I remember when environmentalism became a word, a known thing, and recycling became this big thing, and there were projects and pushes all over the country, and everybody was kind of enabled and excited about this. And then it sort of became a little bit of a bad word. Oh, you're an environmentalist, and kind of got twisted around a little bit. And it's become this huge business of recycling and garbage. And I'd actually called the local recycling garbage people to discuss this as well. And they never called me back.
Oh,
So I figured, let's get you on the show. And, so where are we with this? I mean, are you seeing positive changes that are happening? I mean, these things can last 20 to 500 years. It's staggering. This little short period of time, it's such a disposable society we have with things. Buy something, throw it up. But the problem is it doesn't actually go away. It doesn't go away at all.
no, no, no. Well, I decided in 2011 I was going to break up with plastic. And back then there was much less awareness.
Yeah.
So the good news is there's so much awareness now. And, when I started, I couldn't find a decent shampoo bar. Shampoo bars are great. They're just a bar,
Yeah.
they look like soap, but they're shampoo, and you can
We
use that
actually
instead
have,
of.
we use those. That's
Yeah,
typically what we use. Yeah.
yeah. So things like that were hard to find. My kids and I I guess we were kind of weirdos back then, but not so much now. Well, maybe I'm still a weirdo, but not as far as the plastic goes. So there is much more awareness. So that's good news. And so I live in California, and California has implemented a lot of laws to address plastic pollution. So that's good. And, California, it's now, I believe, the fourth largest economy in the world. Was the fifth. Yeah, I think it's the fourth now.
Really?
Yeah. I think just last week I thought I heard Gavin Newsom say that. I may be wrong. May have to edit this part out. Anyway, so what happens in California spreads. And it's such a huge market that companies that want to do business with California are going to have to follow some of those laws. They try to get out of it. But yeah, so there's a one law where companies, they can't put those chasing arrows, the little symbol with the arrows in a triangle. They can't use that unless the stuff actually will be recycled, and they have to show that it's recycled maybe a certain percentage. Because you can put please recycle on anything, I could get a tattoo on my forehead saying please recycle. It doesn't mean I will be recycled. And just some things, just because we can recycle it doesn't mean we should. It's better to reduce the waste up,
Yeah.
by not producing so much.
Yeah, that's a key. So let me ask you. So recycling.
Hmm.
If food is still on a recycling container, you get some takeout and there's still some sauce on it or something or some gunk on the side. Often, as far as I understand it, that's not recycled. That's just garbage.
It depends on how contaminated it is. I think like a little smudge would be okay. Yeah, if it has a lot of food on it, then it's contaminated. It may contaminate the whole bin.
Yeah.
So it should be clean, but I think if there's a little tiny bit of food, it's okay. But that's my understanding. It may depend on your municipality also. But yeah, contamination is a big problem. Those biodegradable plastics, they look like plastic. You can't put those in a recycling bin. They contaminate the whole bin because they are processed at a different temperature. They're different material. So it's very confusing. I went with my daughter to a convention on waste, like a resource recovery convention, because that's what these things are, the resources. Anyway, she pointed at the recycling bins. These were professionals, but they were from different areas of the country. And so everybody has different rules. And she said these bins are all wrong. Everyone was putting the wrong thing in the bin. These are people who are, dedicated their lives to reducing waste, and
Yeah.
even they get confused. So
Are we as America, we used to be more leaders, let's say, in causes and progress. We've, I think, taken a few steps backwards. I know China has really been trying to clean themselves up. India has been trying to clean themselves up, planting more trees, etc., and just reducing a lot of this waste. I mean, are we falling behind?
well, I mean, we have this new administration, so he's
You don't want to
I
answer
mean,
that.
he's every he's just
I know.
slashing every good
I don't understand it.
environmental
I don't
regulation.
understand.
So
I don't understand. I mean, even the plastic straws, they were banned, and now he's gotten rid of that ban. It's like
yeah.
we don't, like we can live without plastic straws, and we obviously know that it hurts sea creatures. So, it's such a large topic, and it's so all consuming. And are there things that are happening because we've become this disposable society, and plastics are made so well, right? It was a great invention.
Well, yeah. As far as indestructibility goes, yeah.
And doing right what they wanted it to do, it works well. The problem is there's so much of it, and I always go back to COVID. When COVID first happened, everything shut down, right?
Hmm.
Everything, waterways and everything else shut down. And within a very short period of time, animals started returning to places they had not been in centuries. Coming into waterways, you'd have seals and wherever harbor seals were returning. Staggering. It wasn't so much a reduction of people, because we have more and more people, obviously, than ever before, but it's just simply the use of the waterways, the CO2, whatever it is, cleaned itself up within months. So is there anything, I know there are organizations trying to clean the oceans, or trying, pulling up, which is, obviously a vast, mountain of work, and cleaning up these plastic islands, basically. But are you seeing progress in these type of places? Are we winning it all? Is the question.
Hmm. Well, I mean, reduction is is key.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of hope in those ocean cleaning endeavors. From what I've read, they're not great. I mean, and it would be like trying to vacuum the United States.
Right. I know.
So, well, I think consumers are much more aware now and demanding change. So I think some companies are changing.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting. It's like it doesn't just affect consumers, it affects manufacturers as well. They're people too. They have families also. They want clean air, they want clean water. So we often think of us and them and kind of, good versus bad and all these kind of things. And yes, obviously, if all you care about is making a buck and, you know, screw the world, that's bad. But there are plenty of people that do care and actually would like to make a difference.
Hmm.
And like if there was a way to make that difference. So are there any, besides just reduction, and we'll get into that in a minute, but are there any alternative means at this point, other materials that maybe, I mean, my goodness, my wife and I are so hyper now aware of plastic. Microplastics are in everything. They cause disease,
Oh
they cause
yeah.
cancer.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, God, like, we don't want that. You're drinking it, you're eating it. So it's like, oh my God, people have, well, of course people are sick. You're consuming something that is unconsumable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the science is evolving on the effects of consuming microplastic, but I'll take a wild guess that it's bad for us. I mean, it's,
Yeah,
eating little bits of petrochemicals. Yeah.
right.
It can't be good for us. Well, I mean, what we really need is regulation to clean this up. I posted on Instagram an article from The Guardian last week about these activists who return their products to the companies that manufacture them. So the example they gave was this woman had a sheet and she realized had polyester in it, so plastic. So she can't, if it was cotton, she could have composted it. It was all worn out. You can't donate a worn out sheet to a thrift shop because nobody wants a worn out holy sheet. So she washed it and then she sent it back to the store that sold it to her. And she wrote a letter. And so some people on my Instagram said, wow, this is amazing. And then a few people said, well, it's the consumer's responsibility. But so someone like me, I won't buy that sheet that has polyester in it. I'll buy a cotton sheet because I'm aware and I don't want that plastic sheet. If we had regulations so that even there would be no polyester sheet, or like you wouldn't be aware that, oh, I should look out for polyester because that wouldn't be a thing you'd have to worry about. So extended producer responsibility, EPR. Some of those laws have been introduced into several states, and that puts the onus back on the manufacturer. So, if you're going to produce this product that's overly packaged and can't be recycled and it's going to end up in an incinerator, you have to clean it up. And so that will force them to change the design. And I think that will happen. I think companies will. I mean, I've seen some of it already. I've seen better designed. We bought some sheets. Also, we bought some sheets recently, cotton sheets, and they came in a nice little cotton bag. They weren't in a big, thick plastic thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, just a few years ago, that's all you could get. Everything was in a plastic,
Yeah,
like big, thick
that's
plastic
true.
bag. Yeah. So that's good. There is good news.
Yeah, yeah, right. Because all you do is transport the comforter or a sheet set from the store to your house, and then typically throw it away because it's not recyclable. And
Right.
then what? That's the thing. So
Yeah.
much of this is just for transport from A to B, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just sits somewhere for decades and clogging and poisoning the earth, the waterways, the animals. Yeah,
I can't think of the author now, but I read a book a couple of years ago on fungi,
yes,
and he had a big section on packaging made out of, mushroom.
yeah,
And I think Dell Computer is now using this mushroom packaging for at least
wonderful.
some of its packaging. Yeah, and that's completely biodegradable.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
these are good. These are good signs.
yeah. I mean, I think without people demanding that they stop that these companies stop using so much plastic, I don't think there would be much innovation. But people are much more aware now. I started writing my blog in 2014, and I remember in 2017, David Attenborough's back then it was new, documentary came out, Blue Planet, I think it was called. And the entire UK freaked out because he had an episode on plastics, and I could see my traffic like starting to go up. And there was just so much awareness, and I think things started to change around then. That's what I noticed.
Where there's a will, obviously there's a way, and the will forces invention. And what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention. And I think people are seeing the limitations. 50 years ago, it was like, just throw it in the ocean. I mean, plenty of countries still dump it in the ocean. I had written something recently, like the hospitals used to just dump their waste in the oceans. And just heartbreaking. You think about, like, what are you thinking? Like, it was just so careless. And you can't affect the earth. It's so big, and you can't. It's,
right.
If you do it everywhere, well, of course you can affect it.
Yeah, and these Western companies have pushed plastic onto developing countries that do not have the infrastructure to deal with it. So if they're dumping it in the ocean, well, they have nowhere to put it. They're just not.
Well, they will take it because
and that
we're
too,
offering them money.
Yeah,
they're poor, and I just read it was like a lot of poorer Asian countries will accept the U.S.'s quote unquote recycling garbage, and it just ends up as garbage, and it ends up in their waterways and everywhere else, and it's just pollution. I mean, I'm sure you've seen clogged rivers of just plastic.
Yeah.
Nothing can live in it. Nothing can live in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's this, again, this out of sight, out of mind behavior. It's not our problem anymore. Give it to these people. We'll pay them a few bucks, and now we can say and pat ourselves on the back. Oh, we've recycled it.
Yeah. So in California, you can no longer ship plastic waste to a developing country and call that recycling.
Good.
Yeah, that law went into effect a couple of years ago.
Good.
And another thing, so my daughter and we went to a MRF about a month ago, a materials resource facility. So that's where all the recycling goes, where all the paper and plastic and stuff. MRF, yeah. If everyone visited a MRF and saw what happens, MRF, Materials Resource Facility, or is it recovery? No, Materials Recovery Facility, MRF. Yeah, so that's where your recycling goes.
Okay.
And you see what happens to it, and you see just the mountains of plastic. And this is one city. Mm-hmm. And these are everywhere. And it really I think if people took a tour of that, they would be motivated to reduce the amount of plastic.
School children should go on a school trip there. Should be required.
Yeah. Yep. I spoke at a grade 4 or 5 class a few years ago. And the day before I arrived, they went to this MRF that my daughter and I had toured. And I asked them, what did you think of it? I remember the one girl, her eyes just, they grew huge. And she said, there was so much plastic. Plastic everywhere. Yeah. And they wanted their parents to start using less plastic. And yeah. And I don't blame the consumer for this. This is how our whole economy functions. Plastic makes it makes our convenience economy run.
Of course.
But it's got to change. So.
Well, think about it. We're all so busy.
Yeah.
People are stressed out. They're running. There's no time to really let me sit and take time and it's just give me some food. I'm on my way. I need, what do you? I mean, if you ever go to fast food, all those wrappers, literally, all they're just wrapping it up, handing it to you. You're unwrapping it, eating it, throwing it in the garbage.
Yeah. Well, and the paper wrappers, they probably have PFAS in them.
Yeah.
And if not, then maybe they're lined with plastic, and your hot foods coming into contact with plastic. And, yeah, it's all. Yeah.
Not to mention the low quality of the food, which is
Well,
bad
yeah,
for you, but add the
yeah,
plastic. But
yeah,
what
yeah.
was it? It was material. MRF is material what?
I think it's material resource. No, material recovery facility.
Recovery facility. And that's a
I
national?
think it must be recovery. Well, I think
Delaware.
so. I think it's got to be a
Okay.
national acronym. And maybe it's called something else in other
Yeah,
states.
I'm going to look
But
it up, though. I'm going to look it up. No, I think if, again, like anything, if people experience it firsthand, they see it firsthand, they, oh my God, look at this. And that's why the environmental movement was so powerful back in the 70s and 80s, because they were show. I remember there was that one commercial. Remember, they used to run commercials for it. That one Native American gentleman stood over the big garbage pile with a tear running down his cheek.
yeah, well, do you know the story behind that?
No, I do not.
Oh, okay.
Don't ruin it for me, Anne Marie.
Well, I mean yeah, we shouldn't litter. But
We shouldn't litter, no.
Keep America Beautiful
Right.
is an organization that is backed by McDonald's, PepsiCo, Anheuser-Busch, some tobacco company, Keurig. All of these companies, they tell us, oh, just recycle, clean up our mess, right? They encourage us to recycle because that way they don't have to come up with refill system. When I was little, there was in my small town, this was in Canada, there was a Coca-Cola bottling facility not far from my house. And I think most towns had stuff like that. And the Coke came in glass bottles, and you would return them to the store, and they could be used many, many times. And that's expensive. You have to hire people to work at the facility. So it's much cheaper for them to use PET plastic that gets used once and then is thrown out. And sure, they go on, oh, you need to recycle. They're always pushing that. The recycling rates in the US are something like 4 to 5% for plastic. Aluminum is higher, paper's higher, but for plastic, it's abysmal. Worldwide, it's about 9%. So they came up with that it's called the Crying Indian ad. That guy's actually Italian, the actor. I'm
You
sorry.
ruined my childhood.
I'm sorry. But they came up with this whole litter bug idea, telling people don't be litter bugs, making us feel guilty that we've created this mess, but it's the big corporations. And so they're trying to make us feel guilty for their problem that they have created. It's the most successful greenwashing campaign thus far.
Some of that going on today also with
Yeah, I said thus far.
political narrative, but
Yeah.
yeah, when you the Wizard of Oz was so prophetic. When you peel back the curtain and you see reality for what it is, once you learn what it is, you see it in a whole new way. And it's often frustrating and upsetting when you go, oh, that's what's behind it. You know, always follow the money, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, now I'm depressed.
Oh, no. Well, there are solutions. We have
course.
lots. There are solutions. I mean, to all of our environmental ills, or to many of them, like we have so many solutions. We need to implement them.
Well,
And
yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, the will of the people can get manipulated by misinformation. Right?
Yeah.
And then you blame the people, like you were just saying in this Keep America Beautiful, program. And well, buyer beware. Too bad you didn't know the plastic was cancerous. It's on you. Like this is for me what the government needs to sort of be doing. Because if the government's in cahoots with all these manufacturers, we're done for. We're done. They're the sort of the last vestige of filtration and regulation and laws and everything else. But when you have all these companies basically writing a lot of these laws,
right,
and they're just complicit,
right, and plastic is made from fossil fuels.
Yeah.
So the fossil fuel companies, they know. I mean, they're fighting it tooth and nail, but eventually we will switch to renewable energy. And so they want to do something with their product. And so they're pouring billions and billions of dollars into more plastic production plants. So that's mind-boggling that we could actually have more plastic.
Right. It's similar to the cigarette companies. They fought for years. No, it's
Yep.
not cancerous, and they knew it was the whole time. Exxon has known that, fossil fuels create, climate change and effect.
Yep.
They've known this for decades. They have in many reports they've had.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Tricky stuff, Anne Marie. Tricky stuff for sure. But we can have these conversations and try to illuminate the subjects. And I think, we all want to be informed. We all want to know to make the right decisions. And when we are manipulated with false information, we can make the right decision because we don't know the facts. So I'm grateful, to you and others who come on the show and have these conversations. So let's talk about the Zero Waste Chef. So I know you have a book out there. Why don't you tell people about the book? It's sustainable. It's about vegetarian recipes, but it's also about how to reduce plastics in the home.
Yeah. So it's a cookbook, but it has a lot of information up front about reducing waste, plastic waste, and reducing the amount of food that goes to waste, which is in the US, it's almost 40% of the food that we produce, which is astonishing. And a lot of that comes in plastic. So if you reduce the amount of food that goes to waste, you're going to buy less plastic packaging because chances are some of that food's coming in plastic. So and I have all kinds of recipes. And when I decided to break up with plastic, I had been reading about plastic pollution in the oceans, and I was really upset about it, harming wildlife. And I thought, well, I want to break up with this stuff. And I didn't realize I'd reap all of these benefits. So my diet improved because I stopped eating ultra processed foods. They're all in the shiny plastic packages. I started eating more whole foods, more fresh fruit and vegetables. And I started fermenting stuff, because I started making my own soda and kombucha and sauerkraut and kimchi and sourdough. So my food tastes better. I save money.
Were you feeling better? Fewer preservatives, all that?
Well, yes. I mean, I tell people results may vary, but my health improved because my diet improved.
Yeah.
And, I wasn't eating packaged stuff. I was eating just all kinds of, wholesome fresh vegetables. And so I have lots of fermentation in the book and tips for using the ingredients. After you're done a recipe, I have some ideas that, in the bottom, like, okay, now you can use this for this recipe on this page.
May I interject? May I ask you something? So,
sure.
We go to the store, right? And let's say we buy, a bunch of celery or some apples or whatever it might be. Put it in the plastic bag. It comes in plastic. And it's like, how much of this plastic is rubbing off on the food, or these microplastics are getting into the food just by this short span of time?
Yeah.
It has to be, not significant, but not insignificant.
Yeah. I can't give you a number, but the plastic packaging, it does shed microplastics.
The strawberries, the blueberries, everything comes in plastic.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I have really simple cloth produce bags that my daughter and I sewed. You can buy them. That's another thing. You can buy these things all over the place now. When we first started out, there were limited options, but so I just keep those in my shopping bags, my reusable shopping bags, and I use those for produce. So that's really simple. That's easy. And in California, we're spoiled. We have year-round farmers markets, and all the fruit and vegetables are loose. It's hardly anything is in plastic. So we just go and we fill our bags up, and we go to the bulk bins and buy bulk flour and nuts and seeds and whatnot, sugar, and we put them in jars. You get the jars weighed first, and the customer service will mark the weight of the jar, and then they deduct that weight when they ring you up, so you don't pay extra because of the heavy jar. And, there are all these small things you can do. Take your own mug with you when you go to a cafe, because those paper cups are lined with plastic. And when you get a hot drink in
Right.
one of those, it sheds trillions of pieces of microplastic.
Really?
Yeah, I had to look this up last week for
God.
a project. And yeah, trillions. And
So getting one,
those,
say, hot cup at Dunkin' Donuts
yes.
or
Yeah,
Starbucks or
yeah.
wherever,
Yeah.
even though it's cardboard, it's lined with plastic.
It's lined with plastic. Yeah, otherwise it would leak all over you. So,
You're right.
yeah, so go to a cafe that has real mugs or bring a thermos.
Are
Lots
you
of
allowed to
cafes will
bring
do that.
cups to, say, Dunkin' Donuts and say, can you put it in this?
It depends. So I have friends on the East Coast who have told me Dunkin' Donuts isn't great about that. It depends on where you
Wow.
live. Some
Shocking.
cafes.
And that's one cup. And you're saying it's leaching trillions of microplastics.
Into your drink. Yeah, that's what I read last week. I can find the link and I can send it to you. And those silky tea bags, they're supposed to look fancy. They're shaped like a pyramid.
Yeah.
And they're silky looking. Well, a lot of those are synthetic. And one cup of tea brewed within one of those bags sheds 11 billion pieces of microplastic. That was according to a 2018 study out of McGill University in Montreal. So, but there's this easy solution. Get either a paper tea bag or loose leaf tea. Right before I came on here with you, I brewed a big pot of tea and I used loose leaf. I have a little tea infuser and I just filled it with loose leaf and I put it in there and it tastes really good. I think it tastes way better.
And so you're talking about 1 cup of coffee or 1 cup of whatever, and think of the course of the day. How many things of food are interacting with plastic?
Yep.
Most of the stuff in the fridge, at the store, wherever, the fruit I mentioned, is interacting with plastic. And
Yep.
no wonder disease is so rampant. Cancer, obviously, is a big one. You see animals like whales in the ocean dying on the shore because their bellies
heartbreaking.
are filled with plastic. They're starving, thinking it's food,
Yep.
and they're starving, and it's killing them simultaneously.
Yeah. Well, there were simple things you can do to cut down on the plastic.
Yeah.
Don't drink bottled water.
Yeah,
Unless
I do not.
Unless you live in Flint, Michigan, or somewhere where there's lead,
Yeah.
okay. But most of the water in the U.S. is safe to drink.
Yeah.
So, avoid bottled water. Bring your own mug to the cafe. Use reusable cloth shopping bags and produce bags.
Can I ask you? Sorry, keep going.
Sure.
Keep going. No,
Well, just those 3 things will reduce a lot of the plastic that you bring into your home, and then opt for natural fibers. So, I have a wool sweater on and a cotton t-shirt, and not synthetic because that sheds microplastics. And sweep and vacuum a lot, especially if you have carpet. I doubt most people have synthetic carpet. So you want to sweep and vacuum a lot regularly to suck up the microplastics being shed. So there are things you can do. I don't think you can't worry about every little thing. That will make you sick. So you can't worry about every little thing. You'll get an ulcer or you'll make yourself sick. But it's just good to be aware. But really, I think I live except on, my grandmothers didn't have webinars, but I think my lifestyle is kind of similar to my grandmother's. It's more work. I cook my own food. Don't shoot the messenger, but that's how I can avoid a lot of plastic. I make my own meals, and I just avoid the ultra processed foods, the junky stuff.
Yeah.
So
a friend of mine barely creates any waste. He composts a ton of stuff, but he barely creates any waste as far as the garbage bags, going out to the garbage can or something. And it's mostly because he just eats whole foods. He creates his own, he has gardens and compost, and that's true recycling, right? He eats something, he creates something, he gives it back to the earth, it reuses those nutrients, it creates something else, he eats it again, and goes back to without creating all this waste and garbage that's toxic. It's poison. I mean, it's poison to us, it's poison to the earth, and there's no getting around that. So, okay, so some good solutions. Any more tips as far as at home? Oh, question. Should we keep using our plastic, the bags we bring to the store, to the supermarket? They're clearly all pure plastic or nylon or whatever they might be, but should I just switch them out and get cotton bags? Or because we're
What?
putting our apples in there, we're putting our
Right,
fruit.
right. Well, personally, what I would do is I would keep using them until they wear out. And then when you need new stuff, get natural fibers. So as your plastic tools break down, just
They're going to last for 500 years,
replace
Anne Marie.
them. Oh, well, yeah, the plastic will, but it will break down. Your tools will break. They'll split or something. So, yeah, when we first started, I remember that dilemma. Like, gee, I have these plastic mixing bowls. I don't want to use these anymore. What do I do with these? But I just kept using them until they broke. And this stuff does break because it's shoddy.
I know.
So, yeah, we slowly replaced stuff.
Right, because if not, you're just throwing it out, but at least you're not consuming it as it breaks down, or
Yeah.
And you have a blog that speaks on plastic and eating healthier and how to live a more sustainable lifestyle.
Yeah. So I started my blog first, and it's also Zero Waste Chef, and I also have a newsletter, and I have on my blog I have recipes and tips. My newsletter is more lately ranty.
It's okay.
So I don't have many recipes in my newsletter. But I link to recipes sometimes. And,
I like that you're ranting. You're like, and eat more broccoli or something. I don't know. That'd be a good rant.
Yeah.
Stop using plastics and eat more broccoli. Yeah, I mean, I saw one of the tips, and it's just a reminder of how to not use plastic. So instead of wrapping something in plastic, just put a plate over it or something to kind of block out bacteria from getting it. Yeah,
my mom, who is 93, wonders how I live without saran wrap, without plastic wrap. And it didn't exist when she was little, but it's not that hard. And also I find once you don't have it, you get creative and you find a solution.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't use saran wrap. It just gets on my hands and gets all sticky.
Well, yeah, that's true. You pull it off and then it's like a spider's web.
Too trouble, yeah.
Yeah, there are, you figure out. You kind of MacGyver it.
There you go. We got to do some MacGyvering here.
Yeah.
So I've been speaking with Anne Marie Bonneau. She's got a great book called The Zero Waste Chef. So check that out, about sustainable kitchen. Kind of reusing or recycling foods that are in the kitchen. So instead of wasting them, throwing them out, other recipes on how to kind of bring them back to life. All sorts of recipes there, and also facts about how to reduce waste or plastic waste in particular in the household. And anything else you can, and again, you can find her at the Zero Waste Chef, but anything else you'd like to share that's coming forward for you?
Well, I'd just like to tell your listeners, don't worry about being perfect and don't feel guilty.
They're imperfect. They know that.
Yeah. I mean, like if you need something and it's in plastic and you have to have it, try not to feel guilty. If you live in a city where, you don't have a farmer's market and all of the produce is wrapped in plastic, I mean, you have to eat. So
gotta eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, I wish there were more, and I feel like this is what a government should be doing. Now, I understand it doesn't necessarily work that way because of big business, but government needs to counterbalance, needs to be a counterweight, right, to capitalism, manufacturers, whatever it is. Not against it, but it has to be a filtration system, so to speak, because this is the real issue, right? These microplastics and, oh, stand up to cancer. It's like, well, if you want to stand up to cancer, you have to change your entire culture. That's standing up to cancer. Changing how we manufacture, changing how we address things. That's what true standing up to cancer.
Yeah, we like to deal with everything after the fact. We need to prevent. We need to prevent
We like
cancer.
slogans.
We like slogans. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really what we like. It sounds good, but if there's really standing up to anything, fill in the blank, there's hard work, there's action, and there's bringing the facts forward. And these are the facts. You get 1 trillion bits of microplastic when you drink a cup of coffee, to-go cup of coffee. That's a fact, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, it has been such a pleasure speaking with you. You can check out Anne Marie Bonneau at the Zero Waste Chef. And it's been a lovely day. So thank you so much for joining me for the last hour.
Oh, thanks for having me, Douglas. Yeah, this has been great.
Thank you. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
This is the Douglas Robbins Show.